The August 26th meeting, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first order of business is the approval of minutes. I've read them, reviewed them, and look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Small project, NACC number 154, 177 Salem Street.
See and have in front of you, this is, at least in the 50-foot, largely a landscaping project, planting, reseeding of an eroded slope. Very close to the 100 is some ripping up of asphalt and replacement with pavers, construction of a stone wall, both in and out of the 100-foot buffer, in a drain associated with that wall. The engineer is here to present, so I'll let him kind of summarize for you.
Where should I set up? Is over here okay?
Sure, but, you know, they have it both, and I have all the plans on here, so if you just want to refer to
Okay.
what's up there, it's fine.
For the record, my name is Philip Henry with Civil Design Group. We are the civil engineers on this project, which is a small projects application at the Ridgewood Cemetery. And as Mrs. Hughes alluded to, it's really a limited project, and there is a section of the improvements that are within wetlands jurisdiction. But just to run through the highlights, the plan as presented to you had a locus of the Salem Street side of the Ridgewood Cemetery, and I'm sure most of you or all you are familiar with the site. The existing roadway networks that are adjacent to Salem Street are going to be ripped up. It's existing asphalt, and we were proposing to replace it with the stone resurfacing, cobblestone resurfacing. The second major improvements is the construction of a small 3 to 4 foot stone wall along the eastern side of the property, or left as you're looking at it from Salem Street. And then other improvements include irrigating and loaming and seeding within the roadway networks, which are referred to as Central and East Meadow. So that's really the highlight of the improvements. And as Mrs. Hughes alluded to, there's substantially no work within the 25-foot. We're just simply doing some small plantings, as the application stated. Within the 50-foot, same thing. We're just simply reseeding, loam and seeding with some plantings. And then once you get out to the 100 feet, that goes in and out of the 100-foot, stretching to maybe about 90 feet with respect to the wetlands. We'll be resurfacing an existing asphalt walkway and resurfacing. So there's no increase in impervious on this site. In fact, we expect a small decrease because the cobblestone surface, the width of that road, will mainly be decreased about 6 inches or so over the course of the entire linear foot of the project. So we've also, subsequent to our submission, we received some feedback, and although we did show erosion control on the downstream side of the cobblestone surface that will be redone, we were asked to add a second row of erosion control adjacent to the wetland along East Meadow, and we're happy to do that. In the landscaping plan, which is sheet 2 of the project, of the sheet, we did show, propose some non-native species, which we will be replacing with native species. And very recently today, there's in association with the stone wall that's running along the cobblestone surface, there's an underdrain associated with that is draining into, right now, just an open grassed area. And it was commented on that we should either provide riprap or some sort of rain garden, some sort of depression that will allow some infiltration. So we don't expect a ton of runoff through that, especially because that underdrain is associated with the weep holes that are going through the stone wall, but we're happy to do either. So.
Thank you. Joe?
It's clearly the largest small project we've ever seen, but it's, I try to look at it in context of what it really is, and it's separated, by an existing paved roadway. It is resulting in replacement of existing impervious paved area with an impervious paver, in some terrain breaks like the retaining wall and an underdrain, controlling the runoff. So I think it certainly meets the spirit of a small project. Devil's in the details, though, and, is this going to be a project they put out to bid? Do they have a contractor in mind? I mean, these aren't the contract documents. These are just for our application, correct?
We're ready to start as soon as possible.
But are you putting it out to bid, or do you,
I've already bid it multiple times.
you've already bid it?
Yeah, so that we applied for a CPA grant, we're granted those funds. We've started quite a bit of work all along Salem Street, outside the buffer zone. We've reset probably 50 or 60 gravestones, many of the old granite beds, and we're ready. Actually, we also won an award for excess material with the town of North Andover. So we're going to have our equipment move into the recycling center hopefully next week, no later than the week of the 7th, and start manufacturing some loom product. So we're ready to go as soon as we possibly can.
Do you think where it is remember, a small project, but still ultimately it's the contract documents that drive what it is the contractor is doing. Should we at least get a copy of the contract documents to have as part of this record? Is that
If
something?
they want to submit that, are you able to submit that to us?
No, not yet, because we're not, so I've bifurcated the process for cost savings. So in essence, I've bid it out every which way you could possibly imagine. But we have the decorative wall portion, I think, finalized.
When I say contract documents, I don't mean the actual contract. What I really mean is the plans from which the contractors will be working from.
You're looking at them.
These are what they're working from.
Absolutely. So those are going to be incorporated into the AIA owner subcontractor document. And then obviously there'll be some, attachment to kind of further refine scope between Ridgewood Cemetery and the subcontractor.
If these are what they're using to build from, then we have it. I'm fine.
Who's going to be the responsible party to supervise the contract?
I think it's going to be between Scott, the superintendent, myself, Joe Pellich for the record. Some mornings, we also will have John Smolak there, probably at least several. I think David Rand, one of the trustees, will probably be there almost every day if he can.
Somebody that's got oversight to be able to direct the contractor. You understand what the point of my question is. If you leave a contractor to his own design,
Understand
and
quite well.
there has to be a grown-up in charge.
There will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, very good, thank you. Also.
Okay. Yeah, I was the one that brought up the erosion stone at the end of the swale, because it red flagged me when I saw a 6-inch drain pipe. So I was anticipating it more, because that's on the bottom base of a slope, right?
Yeah, and like I said, that is just meant for an underdrain. That's not taking any surface water, so we actually don't expect much runoff, if at any, through that.
I looked at the plan, there's no depth of pipe. Do we know what the depth is going to be?
Yeah, on the detail behind the stone wall, it's going to maintain a burial depth of 3 to 4 feet.
3 to 4 feet below. Okay. Personally, I kind of lean toward the erosion stone versus the rain garden, only because if we do get some hydrology from the slope.
I'd ask if kind of to maybe reconsider that, or maybe we could have a duplicative process. When you pull in that lower gated area, it's quite nice, and that hill now will be stabilized and quite nice. And we made sure that on that head, I got to be careful how I say it, the Headstone?
Head wall.
The head wall.
It's supposed to
headstone.
look like a tombstone.
Yeah, we actually had it made special, or having it made special out of granite, so it will kind of, just kind of aesthetically look pleasing versus a concrete wall. Maybe we could put some stone down, kind of carve that area about and plant around it as well.
Yeah, I just think that we should have some type of storm, because the way it is set up now, if we do get a lot of water, it's going to sheet flow across the road and off to the other side.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to eliminate. We'd like to keep the water where it is and let it just drain too. So I mean, to just leave it left for grass, or you're going to have a tough time growing grass to stabilize it. I would think.
Well, it's stabilized grass right now. It's a nice vegetated depression with.
I know, but you don't have a 6-inch.
You're right. So
drain pipe.
yeah, maybe we could do a combination of the two.
Sure.
Maybe some rivers, like the larger river stone with
Yeah,
some
that's fine.
plantings
I mean,
in
I'm
it
not
or
looking- I'm
something.
not saying blown ledge.
I think you got to understand what it's going to see. It's not going to see high velocity, so we're not looking, I don't think we're looking at erosion. So we're not seeing some come out, gushing and causing an erosion issue, which is what you would use heavier stone,
Right.
river stone for. I think what you're going to see is what an under drain under a wall is intended to do, is to intercept that groundwater that moves through the horizon and let it drain away before it pushes the stone over. You don't want ice lens to form behind it in the wintertime. So it's going to see a gradual weep all the time, but that weep will occur fall, winter, and spring mostly, and it will, when it weeps, if that ground isn't capable of absorbing the water, it's going to sheet. It's not going to be fast moving, it's not going to erode, it's going to be a nuisance. So you are going to have water accumulating and saturating the soil, and the soils are marginal, probably from a little bit. I've been out in the cemetery Memorial Day once a year for the past 15 years. I'm not a big visitor of the cemeteries. But nonetheless, that area is kind of low and is kind of damp as I remember it, and it's adjacent to the wetland, which is just on the other side of the other roadway. So I think your point's well taken, is you've got to recognize that's where the water's going to go, you're directing it there. So now what happens with it? Do you intend to infiltrate into the ground? If you do, rain garden. And if you don't intend to, and the soil's not capable of infiltrating it, how do you get it across that other road or beneath that other road over to a discharge area where it makes sense? I think that's ultimately what we're looking for.
Yeah, I'm just worried about the sheet flow over the roadway, especially in the wintertime.
And the stone isn't going to help that. Just going to get it there faster if you think about it. So,
Well, I was thinking more of a dry well type of thing, good.
yeah, but we don't know what the soils are, how much water, what's the infiltration rate, without that kind of backup, we don't know what,
So maybe we could condition that they provide us with a rain garden detail, something with a little substrate to allow the water to infiltrate and a little bit of depth and some planting.
That's fine. Okay. Joe? Jack, excuse me.
Yeah, it's an unusual small project. It's not that small, but it looks very approvable to me. I just the one question procedurally is it doesn't look like we're asking for any waivers, even with the underdrain.
That's not in any kind of, almost all of the work is exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act, the revegetation, the repaving of the existing surface, all of that. The underdrain's a little different, but, not a huge impact or something. I think requires a lot of permitting, but I think we need all the documents in hand before we, let them get started, and other than that, there's no, planting in the 25 is an encouraged activity. We just encourage it to be native, so that's the only condition I would, but no waivers.
Yeah, great. Should a test pit be done for the rain garden, for the?
I think they
for
can
the
provide the
soils?
substrate. They're going to probably find that what's in there isn't suitable, and they'll take it out and put suitable substrate in at that location. That's why I was asking them for a detail.
Are they graves nearby, that area that we're talking about?
What's your definition of nearby?
Well, I'm looking at specs on the aerial photo that looks like they might be headstones in an area where we're talking about a rain garden, and unless they're vaulted burials,
So that,
you're not,
there
really
is
a good
a,
idea to put a lot of water in the ground right there.
there's two really big trees on one side of that corner, kind of where, as you mentioned, the memorial, where you would go on Memorial Day, at those 4 corners or 5 corners. Probably 25 feet is probably the closest. That's a,
So enough room away from the grave to still get a rain garden to fit.
absolutely.
Okay.
I just didn't know if you meant like in that whole area, or that's why.
No, just, was there sufficient room to fit one?
Will all the final plantings be native?
Yes.
No.
Okay, no.
No. So I had a meeting with Blair Hines, who's our landscape architect, who works for some of the Mount Auburn, for instance. And we talked about that, and he's very specific. He's quite a very nice guy, unique in my mind. And he started to point things out that I wish you were there, Jennifer, because I know you have a good grasp on that stuff. And he said, that rhododendron is from Connecticut. Is it native? No, it's not native to Massachusetts, because I did suggest, hey, Jim LaFond had brought it up to me at a board meeting and said, let's try to get everything native. He's been going to those meetings. So I guess the true answer is no, because some of the plantings are from maybe Delaware or originated in, some area like that.
I think in the 25-foot no disturb, they're going to be native.
100%. 100%.
Right. And then outside of that, if they're New England natives, I don't think it's a huge thing. We just don't want you to have to be using a ton of water and fertilizer and stuff to keep things alive.
Yeah, we don't want to. We don't have the budget to do that. So our goal essentially is to slowly replant that area with a grass that only has to be mowed minimally, hopefully 4 to maybe 6 times per year. We're going to keep it really long. And we're only putting irrigation in like other cemeteries like Mount Auburn would have during a heat event like these past couple days. Maybe you water heavily once in 5 days. So we're hoping to only water a couple times a year.
Thank you.
Well, I think the first motion is that we consider the application to be a small project under Type L, which is another similar project, minimal impact, that we have just determined. Motion to consider as small project Type L.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that's unanimous.
And the second motion is to approve the scope of work shown on the drawings and submittal in the application, and that an evolved design for the rain garden be submitted as a pre-construction requirement. I think it's the only that came out in
And the
debate.
native plant list.
In the native plant list, which,
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank you, Joe. Okay. Next one is RDA 64th North Cross Road.
I don't know if there's any abutters or if you want to waive the reading. So
Any abutters here for North Cross Road?
the owners are here, I believe, right? Yeah.
No one answers.
Oh, no one answered.
Doug motioned waiving the
Doug
reading.
motions, we waive.
Second. You have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
Okay. This is a proposal for tree removal. However, the tree removal is proposed both in wetland area, riverfront area, floodplain. 25-foot no disturb zone. So it's a rather intensive request. There was some after having spent some time on this, Heidi and the owners, she suggested maybe you would want to do a site visit, given the nature of this project, and the request of the applicants, since it is somewhat unusual. They have lived in the home for a number of years and have slowly watched the water inundate the roots of the trees, making them somewhat shallow-rooted. There is one tree in particular, number 2, that does lean excessively toward the house. That tree is in the wetland, but all of the trees are in the 25-foot no disturb zone and the floodplain.
Any questions?
Well, I'm reading the arborist's letter from Iron Tree Service. And he goes into pretty good detail of why, the 4 points that he sees necessitating the removal. I don't necessarily disagree with it.
The caveat is, we have a lot of floodplain, a lot of riverfront, and a lot of wetland, and a lot of trees in all of those. And a lot of people worried about said trees. These trees are alive, and most of them are in fairly good condition. I think there's one that has some kind of marking on the trunk. In the past,
Two things that I pointed out in the arborist's note, though, that maybe perhaps distinguish these from others. 2.5, if you will. The first one being the half is they've outgrown the area and they're too close to the house, causing property damage even after being pruned back. So it sounds like, there's a statement at least that they've been attempting to keep them pruned back, yet they're still causing property damage. Over the last few years, several large branches have fallen from the trees, landing on the roof and the lawn, causing damage. It's a statement. We don't necessarily know it to be accurate and don't know it to be inaccurate. And last we point out, that last bullet is the red oaks have significant rot at the base. And, rot, I think, is a very clear exhibition of danger. So maybe that does distinguish some of these trees from others on a wholesale fashion just because they're nearby. So, that's what I got out of the arborist's letter. When a homeowner comes in and I guess it's incumbent upon us to really understand what the threat is, but, far be it from us to say there's no threat and then, share some sort of liability because we wouldn't grant a permit.
but as for altering the resource area, it's very likely removing all of these trees will change both the hydrology
I'm not saying there's not a quid pro quo.
and the...
How old this
yeah.
is, I don't know if a physical barrier, whether some sort of signage, whether there's other enhancements we could get.
Let me ask the question.
Sure.
Get so many trees behind them, how are you gonna alter removing those trees? I mean, you got so much planting right there.
Well, behind those trees is immediately wetland, so you've just lost all of the buffer zone.
We were asked, essentially, the same request, the same type of request was made by the Lawrence Municipal Airport when they wanted to take down the trees for purposes of visibility and convert that area to a low-growing shrub growth, not altering or damaging the wetland. We permitted that accordingly. And to my knowledge, we didn't do any damage to the wetland by allowing them to take away the tall trees and replace them with vegetation that doesn't grow so tall. I would be, if it's scientifically feasible, and that's on you, I would be in favor of allowing them to take the trees down and replicate the area with a wetland species that won't grow up that high and won't threaten their house.
Well, buffer zone, so it's not wetland, it's not a facultative.
Tree number 2 is in wetland, but it's not. It's in resource area because it's in bordering land subject to flooding
But do you understand my point?
and riverfront.
Things like high bush blueberry, for example, and other species, light
Right
species.
selection to enhance.
Right.
Enhance the area. We could provide enhancements, buffer zone and wetland enhancements, and take away the threat.
I think Heidi had suggested perhaps river birch, something that won't get very tall, and high bush blueberry or winterberry would be appropriate.
So anyway, I guess that's, okay. So we're kind of on the same page then.
Yep.
Okay. All set, Mr. Chair.
Well, unfortunately for me, I'm on
I'm
the
not sure.
opposite page. Tree number 2, I understand it's a safety factor, it's leaning toward the house. But I'm looking at those trees, and Heidi's been out there. Have you been out there?
I don't think I've been out to this
Normally-
property. I've
normally-
been there, but not that
I
house.
remember another applicant that we denied removal of shrubbery that was overgrowing the driveway because it was in the wetland. I mean, I'm very hesitant to cut down healthy trees.
I think the situation that you're referring to is a little bit different in that I think there's more of an imminent threat from these trees with respect to damage to the dwelling and pest infestation in their house.
Well, this one, I'm looking, one of them, this one here, I think, is number 4, is 45 feet from the house. So infestation from the tree, like this one, that's tree number 1, and the other ones are even farther away.
Yeah.
Like I said, to me, I'm hesitant, if we start allowing random tree cutting along the buffer zones or in the no disturb zones, I think we're gonna, everybody in town will be doing it.
Is it worthy of a site visit? I mean, going out there to actually look at it and see it?
I think the science should drive this. I mean, they've got an arborist, and we have a wetland scientist. I'm happy to go out there, certainly. I'm not trying to get out of a site visit, but I think that this, in order not to be arbitrary or capricious, we let the science drive the project.
Or the quorum, the majority?
Yeah, I don't want to sound wishy-washy. I'm a little quoted from the arborist letter, and I'm going to say arborist again, because he claims to be an arborist. And whether he's a certified arborist, I don't know, but no, he's the tree service, so he does have a vested interest in removing trees. So he gets paid for. So, I think if we're facing what could be a precedent-setting question, and I understand Lou's concern for that, I think that a couple of us at least should do a sidewalk and physically see it.
I'm happy to go. I'm just saying, we've been down this road before. Okay, we've been down this road before. I mean, Lawrence Airport came in and took down 15 acres worth of trees.
And in the end, we enhanced.
So, I mean,
The habitat.
I have a real dislike for large organizations that can throw an exemption down on the table and beat you over the head with it, and then a homeowner that has to
I think we should be very
jump
careful.
through flaming hoops.
Yeah, overstory clearing is a whole different ballgame,
Well,
and airports have a lot
That was a
of
federal
leeway,
mandate.
so
They could've
I'd
did it-
prefer
they
to see it
could've
on
did
an
it anyway.
individual.
Okay. So, my point, you're all making my point.
Well,
I think if these guys can make the case that I think they're making, that wetland won't be harmed one bit by just replacing the big trees with little trees.
all right. Jack?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. I saw, maybe I interpreted the multicolored sketch wrong, but I thought that yellow line was riverfront.
No, that's the river.
That's the river. Okay, so you're well within the inner riparian zone.
Correct, where
Okay,
there's
I-
supposed to be 100 feet of vegetation.
I completely
Obviously not.
misinterpreted
Didn't
that.
exist when the house was permitted in
Right.
1989. There
Understood.
was no such thing as a riparian zone.
Right.
Right. Okay. That being cleared up, my feeling is clear and won't change that if there is a real safety concern, which to me it seems there clearly is, I think safety overrules some concerns we would have about, changing the temperature, the sunlight of that particular area, that part of the buffer zone. I would be in favor of, number one, a site walk, because I'm kind of with Lou, we've got 7 trees requested. Maybe all 7 really need to come out. But this is a sensitive area in a riparian zone, on the wetland or in the wetland. I think it's probably worth a site walk, just to make sure that we have, the right thing to do. And we made reference to an earlier project where there was a request. It was a requested small project where I think the applicant requested 7 trees to be removed. I think 2 or 3 of them were in the 25-foot no disturb zone. They wanted a small project, or they wanted a negative RDA. We didn't give them permission to take down all the trees. We gave them permission to take down some of them, but only pruning on the two in the 25-foot no disturb zone, which that way we could justify granting a negative RDA. So it's not that we denied them much at all. We allowed them to take the trees down, but it was a little different than.
There wasn't a safety issue along the drive.
And it wasn't the safety
Not this
issue.
kind of safety issue. They had other
Right.
concerns, but it wasn't going to fall on the house kind of thing.
It was much less imminent, for sure. So anyway, I'm in favor of preserving the safety of the homeowner, clearly, and I'm also in favor of doing a site walk to make sure we make a good decision on all of these trees, because to your point, Jen, it will change the temperature of that area, it'll change the vegetation, and whatever we do authorize to take out should be replaced with something more suitable for the current conditions. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Deb?
I concur with Al. I think that, for the safety of the homeowner, that the trees, should come down. And I also agree with Mr. Mabin, because if they have to be pruned in some way and replaced in kind with smaller trees, I agree with that as well.
I also concur with Al, and I would just add that if they do take the trees down, that the stumps remain, they not be stumped or ground down, and that additional plantings be added and to replace what was taken down.
I'm assuming we might be doing a site walk. If that's the case, I was going to add a question about, not only not grinding the stumps, but is there any benefit to snag habitat? Would you want, some of the felled trees to stay in wetland area, or is the river flowing such a way that it would impede flow? Until you get a lay of the land and know what the habitat looks like.
When do you want to go look at it? You want to go look at it Saturday, Sunday? What?
I'm moving a kid to college. Tuesday evening, we work late. I don't care when we go see it, and you can certainly go see it without me, and I can go see it again. I would like to see what's growing there, so if we're going to replace, we should replace with something that's already doing well in the area. Like if there's speckled alder or river birch or...
But you're going to be changing. We're going to be taking shade away, and we're going to have partial sunlight or possibly full sunlight in some areas. It's going to be a whole different species, a whole different canopy.
I think there's a
speckled alder is pretty hardy.
Yeah,
speckled alder's gonna
speckled
grow
alder will
no matter
get
what you do
20,
there.
will also get, 15 feet tall. It won't grow straight up in one trunk. It'll be a very large shrub. Same with the high bush blueberry. That can get, 10, 12 feet tall. Same with red osier, dogwood, any of them.
Yeah, they have in that area.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be responsible for protecting what they plant, and, I'm not worried about. Is an after-work site visit feasible, or would you guys rather do it on a weekend? I'm moving the kid to college on Saturday. That's all I can say about Saturday.
If we do it after work, we have to do it in the next 2 weeks, which we probably would do
Well, I
it.
think the applicants would want us to get out
We're running
there.
out of daylight already.
Right.
so.
Next Tuesday is fine with me.
I don't need to be there, I can't be there Tuesday. That's when you have to be at.
Well, as long as we get a few people there. Next Tuesday, 6. What time works for everybody? Does that work for you guys? Would you be able to be there next week? Sure, just come up to one of the microphones.
Tuesday, the first.
So my name's Doug Alexander. I've been living in the home since 2006. I appreciate you guys looking at this for us. And I will say this is 100% a safety issue. We're all in favor of leaving stumps, leaving the wood there if you want. We do have a list of native trees or bushes that we would replant. We've already gotten quotes on doing that. If you look behind these trees, there's a ton of other trees, so I think the shade is still going to be there. And we're not trying to increase the value of the home or anything like that. This is when those storms come in, and these trees are extremely tall, you just see them going like this. And I have 4 bedrooms up top, 3 boys, my wife and I, and many times we go downstairs and we'll stay in the basement because we're afraid. And if you look behind these trees, there's other trees behind that blue line that have fallen over. And when that river swells up, all those trees, all those roots go underwater. And according to the arborist, the roots are rotting, and these trees are going to go over. And that is our big concern, and that is really our only concern. So we'll replant whatever you want. We'll leave stumps as high as you want. We'll do whatever just to get these trees out of there. They were pruned back before we moved in, and the arborist is saying if we prune them, it's not going to eliminate the fact that they could still fall on the house, and in fact, pruning them might end up actually killing the trees. So that's what this is about. We plan to live there for a long time, and it's very concerning and brings a lot of anxiety to us. So.
The nature of the dialogue you just witnessed here was not questioning your intent or anything. I think truly it was recognizing the need and even acknowledging the need. But given the sensitivity of this area, in that there are thousands like them across town, we just don't want a wholesale run on the requests like that unless, they're truly warranted. And I think to do that is, it behooves us to get out there and see it and be able to, attest to that and get it into the record. I imagine we're going to see exactly what you just said.
If you look at some of the pictures I sent in, but the house is being swallowed by these trees, and they're overhanging the roof, and we have had branches fall on the roof, and we've had squirrels in the attic and bats and all types of things, and there's a natural bridge being created. The side of my house is all rotting, and rather than just go ahead and start doing stuff, we wanted to go through the process.
It's an interesting point. Probably goes back 20 years ago. We had a very nice applicant with a very legitimate request from his own perspective, and it was exactly that. He was looking to waive the no-build provision of where his house was, and we kept arguing, the more you get the house closer, the more you're going to be impacted by it, and from time to time, people come back and where old waivers were in fact granted many years ago, decades ago. It's those houses that are filled full of insects and snakes. Because, be careful what you wish for. And so, we're very cognizant to the balance of that 25-foot in the 50-foot no-build, leaving that theoretically 25-foot backyard area to give you as much protection from all that as possible.
So would you be available if the commission were to come out next week to take a look?
Heidi's been there twice. And then we had, I don't know what he's called, but he came out and put up blue ribbons all over the place. So he's been there, and Heidi's been there twice, but
Only these guys make the decision,
Sure.
and they haven't seen it.
Okay.
So that's kind of the...
No problem.
Yeah, like I said, my whole condition is like Joe says. It's just if the trees are healthy, I'm reluctant to, because if we live in a country setting.
I know.
We'll be here doing tree cutting for, there'll be free wood in North Andover.
I mean, they are going to fall in the house at some point, and 6 and 7, they're really tall. So if they come over, not all that tree is going to hit the house, but a good chunk of it's going to hit that house. There was something on the news this morning about a woman that was trapped under a tree branch in her bedroom for 2 hours, and that's the stuff that keeps us up at night, especially when we get those storms and those trees start swaying.
Okay, well, we'll do a site review and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So we continue to the 9th?
Next one is,
We need to continue it to the 9th.
motion to continue till the next meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 40 French Farm Road.
Again, if there aren't any butters, if you want, I
Are
don't
there
want
any
to waive
butters
the
here
reading.
for French Farm? We have motion to waive the reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
All right. So I'm fairly certain is anyone here for French Farm? Owner? Okay, so the contractor has been doing all the permitting work with us. And I have photos for you on this, too. So this is another one of those. It could be one of two things. It could be just a stormwater question, is it jurisdictional or not jurisdictional? It doesn't technically meet the jurisdictional exemption. There's some historic here. Who's very familiar with?
I'm very familiar with French Farm.
Yeah.
I worked there for 2 years.
So the issue becomes prior agents have signed off on work that has occurred out here as this stormwater swale, this utility, it says utility easement, it's really the head wall and outlet of a storm drain, of a, catch basin, or a catch basin system in French Farm Road. In lots of cases, when they've been built before 1996, we've considered them jurisdictional, especially if they were, it's unclear whether they were built in wetlands. It's clear that this one is a dug swale. It connects to a system that is a wetland, obviously. It has wetland vegetation in it. Does it function as a wetland? Probably not, but it was built prior to 1996, so it doesn't meet the exemption, and it has not been maintained. So that said, the pool and a lot of the work that's out there has been signed off on prior agents as not being jurisdictional. But I don't think you guys have ever weighed in on whether it is or it isn't. So we could also vote on it because he filled out the application as such, as the work as either getting a negative RDA. It's being constructed between a pool and the house. There's no chance of anything happening. And it's not really the work that concerns me, it's more the decision on what's what out there and how we should be interpreting it for others in the future.
We actually have. We've discussed this swale in the past.
Oh, okay.
We absolutely have. Maybe not in your tenure, but this swale has been discussed by us on other projects on French Farm. And my memory is that it's always been considered to be jurisdiction. I can't tell you what the filing was.
Well, there is no filing for the pool. There is a building permit sign-off by one of the past agents.
That may or may not mean much.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, it's out there. And there's a pool on the adjacent property as well.
There's
But,
all kinds of pools up there.
Is it a wetlands now?
it has wetland vegetation in it, so it would qualify.
They created a wetlands.
But it's clear if you look at the aerials of the property before it was developed, that, this is a dug ditch. It wasn't part of the existing wetland.
Absolutely. No,
That's what I'm clear on.
this was a cornfield before it was a subdivision.
Right. It was a very wet cornfield,
Well,
mind
it
you.
grows best in the wet. You don't have to water it so much.
So, the reality is, even back then, it was dug to move water through and to act as a detention pond. It was probably required to be maintained by somebody or the town. And because it wasn't, and the water sat there and over time, got some soils and got enough hydrology to let the stuff take hold, and it became a wetland. To Al's point, that theoretically makes it a wetland.
So,
But the town wanted to go in and suddenly stop maintaining it, if this is an accepted roadway and it's a town easement, I think the town could go in and maintain it as a drainage feature. It maybe ought to.
well, I guess, so if that's the way.
That's not a criticism, it's just, I'm
Right.
just saying,
No,
how sacred is this area?
No,
If you can go,
I'm just amused by the idea of it.
well, yeah, me too, and that's my
Well,
business.
they could go in and maintain it,
It's
but
cracking funny.
just to keep it moving, if it is your opinion that it's jurisdictional, I would just give the work a negative determination.
Because it's negative impact, don't rule on the resource.
Right.
Right.
And then just give it a negative determination for the work. He can construct his sunroom and
I think it's the safest thing. I think this is a debate
But
that,
that's the right way to do it.
Right.
That's the right way to do it.
That's what we talked about today, to keep, because it's in between the pool and the house.
Yeah.
So it's not even in the backyard.
Not an issue.
separated by physical.
Well, I guess the issue is it's probably in the 50s, so just given the look at the utility easement and the fence, there's 55 feet to the other side of the easement, so I'm guessing that, but that's what, I guess, this, I think you could grant it a waiver and still give it, it's between a pool and a house. I can't see that putting it there has, and there's already a structure there, correct? There's an existing deck and
it's a screen lower.
screen porch.
Any questions?
I'm sorry, I have no
Joe?
questions. I don't, Joe.
None.
That, Chad?
I don't see how we could call a constructed stormwater management structure a wetland, even though it has, some of the features that a wetland has, perhaps due to neglect of maintenance over the years. But I think, in my mind, I consider it a stormwater management structure, and I would have no trouble granting the negative RDA on this project.
Thank you. Deb? Doug? No question. Motion?
Jen, I'm going to follow your recommendation, and I'm going to move that we find this to issue a negative determination, number 3 and number 6.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
You're saying you can build it as you propose.
Next one is 242, we have some continuances. 242, 1634, and 242, 1635. 50 Royal Crest requested continue till September 23rd.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Okay, now I'll go back to 242, 1655 Boxford Street.
So I think we left this off last time, that we were going to wait to see what the planning board did at their next meeting. I know they had a lot of questions about our discussion about trails and access. So I did send you an email today from the town planner that the property, who holds the property is up to the planning board. There are a host of choices that the planning board has. There was discussion about whether there should be a trail out there. The planning board asked that I investigate if there are any connecting trails. To my knowledge, both the end of Duncan Drive and the abutting property on Brookview are contain wetlands and don't contain any trails at this time. What else? As far as there being a trail out in this area, would be somewhat up to natural heritage. We saw this on Berry Street when the 40B proposed a trail network. Heritage said yes, but not within our deeded restriction. There will be a natural heritage restriction out here, so whether or not a trail can be constructed in that restriction is somewhat up to natural heritage as well as the planning board. I don't know if I'm touching on any of the other issues, but I mean, largely the proposal as you were reviewing it, which is for the for the entrance roadway, I think can be approved, and I've written an order of conditions. We did include language that we want the vernal pools certified prior to issuance of a certificate of compliance, I believe, and that would be at the applicant's expense. Other than that, I don't think there's any outstanding issues.
Hi, my name's Maureen Harold. I work for North Environmental Services. We did the wetland delineations on this property. Mr. Christensen is on vacation, so I'm here to fill in for tonight. But at least in terms of the vernal pools, we're more than happy to go out in the springtime and get those certified. And Jen, if you would like to come out with us, it's not a problem. We can set something up in April or so.
Thank you. Joe, any questions?
So what's the status with Heritage? Have they, I know they ruled a no-take for the water main. Did that eventually come in on this?
Nope, they ruled a no-take on the Wetlands Protection Act portion of this. They are working with the applicant at this point to establish a restriction, but that's on the MISA filing, which is their filing.
Okay.
They said that we could issue a permit under the Wetlands Protection Act. They were all set with that.
The only potential clash would be that if we dig our heels in on trails and they don't want trails, you know, that kind of...
I don't think, there's nothing...
I don't need to say dig our heels in. I mean, there's
Right.
been some split discussion on whether trails are
I think
appropriate or not.
the trails are the planning board's jurisdiction. I don't think there's really no precedent for requiring a trail as part of an order of conditions. But, I mean, I know the planning board is looking for your input, so if they were to change their minds about what belongs on this plan, it could affect the plan.
I wasn't at the last meeting, but the first meeting when this was introduced, the dynamic of the conversation seemed to be, you know, we would like to consider that, and then the conversation eroded to a parking area, where would the parking area be, and, you know, that's right in the, you know, the country drainage area where you feed the detention pond. So the thing seems to be just morphing into something that maybe it shouldn't have.
I don't think parking is necessarily appropriate. There's plenty of parking along the roadway as you drive into that development.
So all that
And
stuff's
also-
been resolved.
And well, I don't think it's been resolved, but I'm just, if you want my opinion, that would be it. But I also think, given having now walked the adjacent properties, if there is to be a trail network, it's going to be pretty localized. I don't think it's going to get anybody anywhere, which would probably take away the need for parking. But it doesn't mean that there shouldn't potentially be a trail in the open space. I just don't know that it's going to be one that connects you to other properties.
Is that open space going to be owned by the town?
We don't know. I mean, that's not up to us. That's
If the owner, it's probably in the town's best interest if the owner maintain ownership of it. That way we get taxes on the property.
Right, and that's the tricky part with the trails, is if it's in a homeowners association, let's say.
They make up then they decide whether there are trails or not.
Right, then you get into the legality of, well, what if somebody gets hurt on the property?
So they don't have trails.
No, if there's open space, you're not responsible. If you open a property to passive recreation, you're never liable for what happens on that property.
Okay.
That's the whole spirit and intent of that planned residential development, the PRD. When this town created such a thing as a PRD, it was in response to the building boom of the 80s, when every square inch of land was being developed. And so there was a group of planners at the time that decided to draft and create this for purpose of creating open space. And the number one intention of that group that created this PRD was to not just create open space, but to allow the public to have access to the open space in some level, at some level, access. That access doesn't necessarily have to be a trail. It doesn't have to be a parking place, but it cannot be restricted or barred. So that's what was driving the discussion.
Okay.
This is kind of a conundrum because I believe we have Blanding's turtle habitat.
We do.
We have no doubt you're going to certify vernal pools in there, which is going to create more habitat. Those are areas that we strive to protect. So this is a real conundrum on how do you give access to an area that you really don't want access to get. I don't know. I don't think I have that answer. But I know under the PRD, at least in the past 30 years, that responsibility has been put squarely on the developer, the owner/developer, to propose to the town, okay, in exchange for allowing me to cluster zone, and in order to create this open space, you have to tell us what you propose. If an owners association wants to take title to the property, they can under the bylaw, but they can't say, okay, we're the owners association, we own it, we have title to it, you have to stay out of here. So it's kind of a good planning tool and a good idea to prevent problems in the future. After the place is all done, the houses are built, everybody's living in their house, and then somebody wants to go hiking through or go in and observe the vernal pool or whatever. It's a good idea, a good planning tool to give them, okay, you have access, and this is where we want you to take the access to. Greenbelt uses viewing platforms at a lot of their parcels in Essex County because they don't want people out on the property, but they want them to be able to see it. I don't know. I'm not suggesting that I have the answer to you. I'm just saying this is what drove the conversation, and that's what the intent of that whole bylaw is. So with that, I don't know. I guess I'm tossing the ball back to you.
Well, I think the trails is an excellent idea, but like you said, there is a lot of sensitive areas between the potential vernal pools and the Blanding's turtle and the habitat for the Blanding's turtle. So I think really we would need to go back to natural heritage and say, is trails even an option on this open space? And I think they're the ones that are ultimately going to say yay or nay, and if they are, where would you suggest that they go? Because they're going to have some sort of direction for us to follow, if it is an option.
And that's fine. If Heritage wants to lead the discussion, okay. They may say, no, you know what, this is not appropriate. Maybe just a viewing area over here, maybe a viewing platform over here. Or, I don't know. But anyway, that's what it is. So,
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
I agree with Al. I mean, a trail here where it's not connecting with something else, I'm not too crazy about, where there's vernal pools and there's natural landing turtles, but we don't even know if we could put a trail there. So we're kind of just going around in a circle until we know what they say we can do. So that's where we're at. I mean, to me, if it was me, I'd like to see it just stay natural. Because if it wasn't available access, I don't think anybody would go there, except maybe the homeowners. But I agree. These are set up for open space and for access, so it doesn't matter what I really think. So I think we should wait also.
There are still people that would hike it. I just want to close with this. There are still people that would hike it, trail or no trail.
Right.
There's folks that like the challenge of a hike either way, just to be able to get in and see a particular habitat. So, that could, at the end of the day, be all it is just passive recreation, hiking, no specific guideline area, just, yeah, okay, go in and hike. I don't know.
Thank you. Jack?
Yeah, I spoke out pretty strongly in support of a trail on the first hearing, and somewhat to a lesser extent on the second hearing that we had on this project. This is the third hearing that I've been to. Some of that was, I spoke out very strongly because I remember, I've been on the commission for a while, and I remember there being some neighborhood paths at least discussed, and I thought maybe had been implemented in the Duncan Drive, Stonecleave Road neighborhoods. That may not have happened. It sounds like it's wetter than it had been years ago. So anyway, I thought there was some potential there for this area. It turns out that maybe there isn't. That's okay. But to do our due diligence for the Conservation Commission, if we do have, if the town does have title to this PRD open space, the open space is kept in a better condition when trails exist. That's a pretty well proven precedent in Massachusetts, at least. And people police it. There's no isolated areas that are dumped on with appliances, cases of beer, things like that. People that walk the trail tend to take care of it and clean it up. The second point is this, and Lou touched on it, this trail, if it is just a dead-end trail, it's probably going to be a dog walking trail for the people that live in the neighborhood. That's an asset for this neighborhood. It's a nice feature to have, and it also serves the purpose of, helping police the open space, which works in our interest as well as the town's interest. So there's many reasons to have a trail. Where it looks like it may not connect, it's not as high priority that I thought it was originally. And I certainly think, the parking spot where it is difficult probably isn't necessary. It's probably going to be walked just by the homeowners. So I don't see that as a major issue either. I think it turns on the natural heritage opinion. If this is going to interrupt the, migratory pathways of the Blandings turtle, in and around that ephemeral pool, then, and we shouldn't have a trail, then we shouldn't have a trail. I think it totally turns on that. But if a trail is at least, permissible by NHESP, I think it's a good idea to have it for the reasons I've stated, and that would be my advice to the planning board, is to require it if permitted by natural heritage. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Jack. Okay.
I have no questions, but I agree with Jack.
No comments.
Okay, so what is our direction now?
Oh, actually, one other thing. As far as the planning board goes, and they already know this, but if the planning board does decide that the open space should be owned by the homeowners association, we should have a conservation restriction on it, because the intent of that bylaw, that zoning bylaw, is that it be preserved in perpetuity or forever in its natural condition. And if it's not owned by the town, I think that's the best way to do it. So that would be another point of advice on my part.
That's a good point, Jeff. Thank
Well,
you.
it seemed to me that should have that same condition whether the town owned it or not.
If the town owned it, someone else would have to hold the CR. But that's been done, we just did that. Well, homeowners association was Woodley, and then we would hold the CR. The problem with that is, Woodley's unable to close because the homeowners association doesn't approve of the CR, and we haven't been able to close that out. So it's really wouldn't be my recommendation, because we're kind of stuck, like,
Woodley owns
the open space, and we have a CR to put on it, and we can't get it closed out because the homeowners association won't approve the CR and submit it to the state.
It's another reason for the town to own it.
Also, just remember one thing, that this is from 8.5, zoning bylaw 8.5, section 857F. Jen provided this to me earlier via email. The usable open space shall be to the greatest extent practicable, accessible to the general public, and then in parentheses, unless restricted. That restriction could come from Heritage. If Heritage chooses to restrict the property, it's preserved, but it's open to nobody. So, and it wouldn't matter who holds title, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a private, like Greenbelt or trustees, it wouldn't matter, or even the town and its designees. So we're kind of up against.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it all turns on that.
Yeah, so,
Definitely.
all right.
So I guess that comes down to, we have the ability to close and issue this. So are we closing and issuing and then offering comments to the planning board as to how?
Well, I think, this is just my opinion based upon what I've heard here from everybody, but I don't think we have the authority right now to say. I
Right.
just don't think that that's in front of us. I think the only thing that is in front of us is the notice on its face, on the four corners. I don't know, am I missing something? Or?
Isn't it
No.
the planning board's?
Jurisdiction to do that, yeah.
Yeah, the planning board's
They wanted an opinion from us, but all we can say to them is, yeah, take your best shot, but Heritage is calling the shots here.
I think it's all we convey back to the planning board, and our business here on the application is probably finished.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think so. Unless we want to go
else.
No, unless we want to go participate in the planning process as residents of the town. I think we go to, I go to enough meetings, I don't know about you.
Like I said, normally we don't close unless planning is finished, but planning is only holding you up because of the open space. So it doesn't make sense for us to hold you up for stormwater when you,
So do you recommend we close?
I recommend that we close.
I'll move that we close and issue in 21 days.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that's unanimous.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. Okay, next one is 242, no number yet, 415 Winter Street.
For 415.
That's the read this one, right?
415, yeah, that's fine. Did you ever bring me this 242, 415? I don't think I've seen it. The old order? What was the old order for? Never did that. We need to read this too.
We have a butters here?
I don't know, actually.
Do we have any butters here for 415 Winter Street?
Any abutters?
Nope.
No abutters answered. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Doug and Al, right, Donna?
Okay, so, sorry, I gotta get back to the right meeting here. I'll let you present because there's an old filing here I haven't seen and I don't even know what it's for, but it appears to have a certificate of compliance, so.
Jr., here representing the owners of 415 Winter Street. This is for a septic system repair and some work around their yard.
Oh, it was for the old septic system.
Right, I was just going to say, I got involved in this project because I had designed the original septic system about 15, 16 years ago. We'd come in front of the commission and gotten a order of conditions. The system was put in, and the order of conditions was signed off with a COC. Went out and reflagged the wetlands, relocated the wetlands, and essentially it's a replacement in kind. It's the same septic system that was designed originally. It's a pipe and stone system. It's a little bit more than 50 feet from the edge of the wetlands, which is the Title V requirement. We don't have room to meet the North Andover 100-foot requirement, so we're asking for a waiver from the Board of Health for that. So essentially, it's install a system, put in the erosion control, install a system, backfill. They want to extend an existing retaining wall. It is a duplex home, so they want to kind of make 2 yards. Right now, there's a slope in the middle of the yard, and they want to kind of get rid of the slope and have a lower yard and an upper yard where the septic system is. So we've included that on the plans. So it's a pretty simple project. We do not have a DEP number yet. I do have the green card. They received it on the 21st. They just haven't issued a number. And we had to file with Natural Heritage because this is in a habitat area, so they received it on the 13th, so we're not at our 30-day limit there either. So we'll have to continue to the next hearing to take care of those kind of administrative issues. I don't anticipate any problems with Natural Heritage as it is in the existing yard, and it was permitted previously, so.
I just noted there were supposed to be wetland markers out there, but I didn't see any for the old order of conditions.
Yeah, there aren't any out there, so we can make that a condition of this one.
Right. Well, one of the reasons is there's a shed that shouldn't be there in the 50-foot no-build zone. And did you make the one revision to the wetland flag that I gave you?
I did not yet. I wanted to in case there were any other
Okay.
comments.
So I made one change to one wetland flag, or I added a wetland flag where I didn't think the line came up quite high enough. There is a shed out there. It wasn't out there on the last plan. So it is new in the last, this was 2003, so in the last 10 years or so.
I think it's about 35 feet from the edge of the wetlands. It's just,
Yep. It's
an
not on a
8 by
poured foundation, it just.
sitting on blocks.
Sitting on blocks. That said, there is the potential for some mitigation, both through, they could do some planting along the back, too. I think he said he had cut down some trees that fell down. There's maybe some room to do more of a no-disturb zone. There isn't quite a 25-foot no-disturb zone there. And there would also be, there's some debris out in the woodlands out there that I don't think is they're doing. It's ancient, but it's like pallets of shingles, an old boat, and some other things that could be cleaned up. But I do think it would either need to be after the fact approved, or something needs to be done with it.
Some of those items are actually in the wetland, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, you're talking about the stuff that's way in the back?
Back left corner.
Well, there's
of the-
back left, there's stuff way out in the back right, too.
Yeah, I didn't go way out that way, but
You couldn't get, when it's all grown up, you'd do more damage getting out there to get that stuff out of there.
well, the stuff that was in the back left corner is pretty close, because I
Right.
saw it just looking at the wetland line.
Is it on the property then?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, I haven't pulled up the plan, sorry.
Any questions?
Yeah, a couple questions. You talked about an upper and lower backyard, and I'm looking at the plan, and I guess I'm not understanding what you meant. I see the retaining, I see the septic system, of course, I see the retaining wall separating it. Is it simply the retaining wall delineates a lower area and a higher area?
Right.
That's all it is?
Right,
Okay,
right now, there's
okay.
just a slope.
You're not proposing any regrading in the lower area, it's just...
No.
Just the
Just
wall to
retaining wall.
differentiate them?
Right.
Okay.
But there'd be grading behind the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand it now.
Yeah.
I thought you were alluding to the possibility of regrading that side yard. I just wasn't seeing it
No.
on the plan.
That was one of my next question. I don't know the plan.
We're looking at it as a failed septic system. I guess tough soils out there. I mean, this thing's failed, something that's really not all that old.
No, I actually went and I dug down next to the system about 2 feet away, and the sand is all clean down 2-3 feet under the system, and you dig into the side, and the effluent pours out. So this is a case where it's just clogged between the sand and the stone. Probably somewhat misuse, lack of maintenance, pumping. Eventually they do all clog. It's just a matter of time. It depends how you maintain it, how much water you put in it. So
The way I look at it, we got a failed septic system. We typically want to repair them, even if it is a relatively new one. So I think to go in and have them remove ancient debris, especially areas that might be complicated, I don't see any great benefit of that. If it's not overly complicated, I see that as being possible. Now, you said plantings along the back. You weren't saying in exchange for leaving the shed where it is. I think the shed's getting out into the 50-foot no disturb.
Well, that's your choice. I'm just saying, if you were to leave it, there needs to be some mitigation for where it is. Moving it's going to kind of put it out in the middle of the yard, which is what it is, but that...
the doors to the shed going to open up towards that 50-foot zone. I mean, they could put some fencing and some plantings around it, and they're really not going to be disturbing that, no disturb zone. And even the, you could make it so it really doesn't have any impact to the area.
As much as I feel like I want to be compassionate because the people facing an expensive bill to replace the system, the reality is we've got a shed that's relatively new that didn't get permitted, maybe doesn't even require a permit other than from us. It showed up after the prior filing in the prior certificate of compliance. I think typically it wouldn't be an option. I think we're moving it. And that would be my position, to be consistent with what we've done in the past, and but hope we continue to do in the future. If it's in the middle of the yard, so be it. If there's a place they can tuck it up against that new retaining wall and treat it as part of that topographic grade break, well, maybe that's where it goes. I don't know, but not in the 50. So that's all I have.
Al?
I'm good.
I'm just trying to, I don't have a it's tough with a plan without elevation. You're talking about filling. Can you see the picture again one more time? The septic system's going in the low section where this, is this where it's going now?
No, it's in the
It's going on the
high.
high side?
Right.
And you want to, you want to
We just
fill-
want to take, right now, if you look at the yard, on the high side, the area is pretty level, and then there's a slope. And the slope extends out about 20 feet, and then it's level in the low yard. They want to put a wall up so that they can take away the slope and kind of make that, it's going to put the wall in the middle of the slope, build up on the upper side, and so that the lower area becomes flat and the upper side is flat with a wall between them, just so there's 2 yards separated by a retaining wall, 2 different elevations.
Okay, so relative to the wall, where is it going to be? Oh, this is the proposed wall right here, this dark line?
Yep.
The dark one here.
Okay. Okay. But like I said, like Joe said, to be consistent, the sheds, you know, there's room to put the shed somewhere else, so it's not like it can't be moved. So, okay, I'm all set. Jack?
Do we require a waiver for the retaining wall being within 50 feet?
Oh, it's in the no-build zone, yeah.
It's,
5 feet max.
yeah, about 5 feet max, yeah.
I would say yes.
That becomes a building structure.
That's going to be 5 feet high. Is that going to need a fence on top of it?
It will, yeah.
You don't show a fence on it.
I don't, I can add that on there, though.
You probably should, just so it's covered.
Yep.
No.
No questions.
So it sounds like you have some changes to make anyway.
Right.
Outside of the wetland line, it would be getting the shed out of the no-build zone and a waiver request for the wall
And I owe you $100 for the wetland delineation.
and the wetland delineation fee, which I think I did, but we have a couple of those tonight.
Okay, we need a motion to continue. Next meeting.
All right.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Next one. Next one is 242-1657-777 Great Barn Road. A lot of sevens.
So, there's butters. Not?
Do we have any butters for this application?
None answered.
None answered. Motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
All right. Let's see. Oh, thanks. We got our check, so no one needs to bring that up. Yep, we want the check. Let's see. Where's my
What's that? Oh, gotta punch it in.
Great Pond Road plan? All right, well, guess maybe I didn't get it in there? Yeah, that's fine. This one's relatively straightforward. It's after the fact, but some clearing was done in the outer riparian zone. And that said, there's some additional work to be done, including removal of a pool that I'm sure Greg will explain to you, but largely an outer riparian zone project.
Okay, Craig, fire away.
Good evening, Greg Hockmuth from Williams and Sparagus, here representing the Ibbotsons for the notice of intent filed for 777 Great Pond Road. There was no intent to skirt the regulations here. It was just the fact that the applicants, who are also the homeowners, were not aware that they had a perennial stream behind their house. When you stand in this backyard, it's very, very thick. There's a common driveway. On the other side of that common driveway is a perennial stream. and the 200-foot riverfront area does come onto the property quite a bit. But they're right on Great Pond. Everything was visible. They weren't doing it at night or on the weekends. It was clearly a misunderstanding. But with that said, here we are with an after-the-fact permit request to permit the trees that were removed. And while we're before the commission, the Ibbotsons also would like to do a few more things on their property. One of them is a positive activity. As far as I'm concerned, it's the removal of the existing in-ground swimming pool and brick apron that's around it and some brick walkways. And as a result of that work and the tree removal, once the stumps are pulled, they're proposing to regrade their yard also to give them more usable space. This house was, the assessor says it was built in 1957. I think this was the original house on the parcel, and then it was subdivided. The deed references a plan from 1990 that actually created the new lot. But this appears to be the original house. It's now on sewer. The old septic system still shows on the plan. But there's approximately 51,874 square feet of riverfront area on the lot. It's this whole swath. I've colored in the portion of work that's within the riverfront area. It amounts to about 4,500 square feet, which is 8.6%. So there's still going to be a 100-foot strip of vegetation between their house and the resource area, with the exception of the existing common driveway that's there. There's no proposal to remove any vegetation on that slope. It's strictly the pool patio removal, regrading, and permitting for 6 trees that were removed. And this all started during 3 different storms. 3 substantial trees fell at different times. The last one was pretty close to the house, and Mr. Ibbotson actually did all this work on his own, which outside the riverfront area there's a few additional trees that came down. There's quite a bit. But he's got Peter Breen lined up to do the work. It'd be great to get it done this year, but he understands he's running out of time. So realistically, this project wouldn't start until next spring. But he would like to at least get in there this year and clean up the brush, remove the trees, and keep the stumps in the ground, at the very least.
So you would keep all the stumps, or?
Just for now. He didn't want to open up the ground and have to monitor it all through the winter.
Right, got you.
Yeah, I understand everything you're asking. Maybe disagree a little bit with just how narrow the window might be closing. Depending on our actions tonight, I mean, you still probably have 6 good weeks to get a lawn established.
The only problem is we're cutting about 4.5 feet at the highest point of that hill. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be quite a bit of earthwork going on, and they'd love to get it done this year.
But it's with the same level of erosion control regardless of when he does it.
That's right. Yeah, it would just be the weekly monitoring, and
I'm okay. I understand.
What are the soils in the steepest part? What do you got for soils in?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I suspect a little bit of fill based on the slope behind the patio that's behind the house. It doesn't look very natural.
Yeah.
And
no augers, though? Didn't put an auger down there to see what you had?
No, not up on the hill. The wetland's probably a good 25, 30 feet lower than where the house is.
Yeah, and I'm thinking from the top of the slope to the bottom of the slope, where it's likely to have some difficulty to stabilize. For example, if you had a Paxton soil there versus...
That material's going to be bony out there.
Well, it might be bony, it might not. Honestly...
It's completely covered right now
It
with
could be clay.
bittersweet.
I mean,
That's next to,
That seems to be the predominant vegetation out there. It's all bittersweet. That whole slope going down to that common driveway.
Yeah.
And there's some sort of pump house or sewer lift station or something out in the woods there. I'm not too sure what it is.
I trust the auger more than the vegetation. All right, that's my question. Thank you.
I'm good.
Jack?
So it's just removal of all this myriad of things, including a pool and apron, and regrading to lawn, back to lawn?
That's right. Yeah. And I suspect at one time it was lawn, but it's just over the years, it's from 1957 on, nobody's done anything over there. The pool hasn't been open for a few years.
Okay, I'm all set.
No questions. Doug?
No questions.
Okay, need a motion?
Is it ready to close? It's not, right?
I'm not waiting on it.
You're the one ultimately that has to deal with it.
The only question that came up was...
The planning board filing.
Yeah, this is in the Watershed Protection District, but based on the proximity of the work from the resource area and the date when the lot was created, there's no work in the non-disturbance zone. It's all in the non-discharge buffer zone. And the flow patterns on top of that hill are generally going to remain the same. The vegetation is going to change from woods to lawn. But as far as activities requiring a special permit, vegetation removal it's spelled out in the non-disturbance buffer zone, but not in the non-discharge buffer zone. So residential use is permitted without a special permit in the non-discharge. And I think it's implied that people are going to grade and have lawns around their house. So we wrote a letter to the client and copied the planning board and the commission on how we interpreted the Watershed Protection District and why we didn't think it needed a special permit.
So I think it's the same if they continue and you just get that approved or info from the planning board. Are you meeting with them next week?
We're not meeting with them. We just...
just submitted?
We're awaiting a response.
Right.
Yeah, well, we just, as a courtesy, we didn't want them to think we were ignoring them, and we strongly feel as though we don't require a special permit for the work that's being proposed, but we wanted to get it out there.
Well, I can talk to the, I don't know that planning necessarily has done anything with that yet, but even if I have to write the order of conditions, so, right? This is an OOC, not a...
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so we can just continue for 2 weeks. I can get that info, and we can close an issue at the next one. You won't need to be here.
It's a high-profile spot. I think some planning board members drove by and just assumed that a filing would be coming before them. But at that time, there wasn't a survey, a plan that showed where everything was. Now there is.
I did the same drive-by. It looked like a major tree operation when I went by. I was the one that made the call. Like, what's going on?
So
I'll
leave it open for 2 weeks
yeah.
and, okay.
Greg, you know what you're saying you're going to cut 4.5 feet?
At the highest point of the hill.
So what's your estimate of yards removal approximate?
I don't know. We didn't look at that. I can get those numbers.
If you could, that would be good.
Sure.
All right, so,
Being removed from site, you mean?
yeah.
When you look at filling the pool, and you're going to be losing
Yeah,
a
because
lot
the
there.
pool's going to have to come out, and they're going to lose some fill there. Once the stumps come out, they can move some around. But there is going to be material removed.
A 4.5 foot cut, that's a lot.
Yeah. And it does go up.
4.5 tapering down to nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, probably going to lose it all there then.
Yeah, and I don't know the area.
I don't either.
You can't guess the volume.
We can do a quick calc.
Okay, so we need a motion to continue?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimous.
Thank you.
Next one is 242-1658, 77 Bear Hill Road.
Greg's up again.
More checks, yeah.
This is the old, this just shows in the old Bear Hill plans that the drainage was actually constructed within wetland. Two basins, this is the wetland line, just for clarity's sake.
That was classic 80s construction, huh?
And exactly what DEP had in mind when they said if you were constructed before 1996, you maybe shouldn't get a waiver.
Yep.
Do we have any abutters here for this project?
77 Bear Hill, all right,
For
then
Bear
we'll...
Hill? Okay.
Does it need to be read?
That's it, right?
Yep, hold on, coming up.
Does it have to be read because of the butters?
It doesn't or it does?
It does.
Why does it have to be read because of the butters?
We don't have the ability, my understanding, now, subject to being wrong, my understanding is we can't waive the reading if there are butters present. That's, I've been,
In that rule,
Yeah,
we always waive.
and Ipswich, we don't read them either.
You don't read?
But it's-
okay,
We don't do it now.
gotcha. All right. Does the abutter care if we read the notice or not? Do you care if we read the public
The
notice?
legal notice? No. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead and waive it.
That doesn't want to read.
You gave, oh, Don's got
I
the
agree
check.
with you.
Okay,
I agree with you.
got it.
As long as they've been posted, we
Doug,
can
I'm glad you
certify
brought
they've
that
been
up. I was
filed.
under the impression we were obligated to do so.
I don't think we are.
No, well, then, that's perfect.
I will research.
All right, thank you. I think it's great.
We have a motion by Doug and a second by Al. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
All right.
All right. That being said, this is I'll save time by letting Greg present.
Okay, good.
Good evening, Greg Hockmuth, representing David McGilvery for the notice of intent filed for 77 Bear Hill Road. Everybody knows where Bear Hill Road is. There's a lot going on the plan. The wetlands completely surround the project. Almost the entire project is within your jurisdiction. There's a drainage ditch along the southern portion of the property that's established BVW over the years. It's now a jurisdictional resource area, BVW. And behind the lot, to the west, I guess, is a sewer easement that is also reverted into a jurisdictional resource area. Right now, there's an existing in-ground swimming pool, concrete deck, walkways, patio, lawn, and shed. What the McGilverys would like to do is to install a sports court on their property, but as you can see from the no-build zones, they're very, very limited on where they can propose it and stay outside the 50-foot no-build, which is why you see the orientation that you do. We've managed to keep all of the structures outside of the, and including retaining walls, outside the no-build zone, and there's no new work proposed in the 25-foot no-disturb zone, closer than what's there now. There's existing railroad tie retaining walls that we're proposing to convert to gravity block retaining walls, just because they'll hold up longer. They wanted to expand the patio around the pool deck, but they weren't able to expand it as much as they would have liked to because most of that existing patio is in the no-build zone. So I have this other brown color with slash marks through it. That's a proposed patio expansion around the pool outside the no-build zone. And the entire concrete deck would be converted to the same patio pool deck around the pool. And in between the sports court and the swimming pool, they're proposing a pool house with a pergola and a shed off the bottom, the south end of the sports court. Because the lot slopes off so bad, we tried to balance the cuts and fills to create a level portion for the sports court and minimize the amount of grading that would be required on the western edge or the wetland edge. But we weren't able to catch grade and stay outside the no disturb. So we're proposing a small gravity block wall along the northern corner of that sports court, and then a 3-to-1 slope in the areas where the wall isn't, down to existing grade. All the work is within existing lawn and maintained landscape areas. Following construction, everything will be loamed and seeded, and we're proposing erosion controls during the life of the project.
There's no, the wall for the sports court is in what? It's not in the no disturb.
No,
Oh.
it's outside the 50.
Okay, I
If
thought
he
it,
did not use the wall, he would have to chase the slope.
Yeah. we
oh,
would've had
I
to.
thought you said it was in. I'm like, look, not on
And we
my
would have been
plan.
grading over the lot line, too.
Okay,
And just
gotcha.
to allow a mower to get around that area into the rest of the backyard, we had to give them some room there. And John Campbell's here from Sports Court USA. John can answer any questions related to the sports court that I can't, if the commission has questions about its construction and fencing and lighting and that sort of thing.
Joe?
So just quickly, there is a waiver request for work in the no-build and no-disturb zone, but again, that's not new work, that is work that it was there. This lot, when constructed, none of this was jurisdictional because at that time, those were stormwater structures when constructed. Per the Wetlands Protection Act and the whole thing about pre-1996, these structures were constructed in wetlands, so they are, and I would encourage you to keep them jurisdictional, as I think we've done on several Bear Hill projects at this point, and they haven't suggested that they shouldn't be jurisdictional. It's just that when you look on the plans, there is not a no-build zone associated with them. Again, there is actually a no-disturb zone associated with the one-off property. That is, well, there's a slight no-disturb zone. What is that, Greg? South?
Yeah, it would be the west.
The westerly wetland does have a no-disturb zone associated with it. The one in the back, you can see in the aerials, is clearly a stormwater structure and doesn't have an associated no-disturb zone. It's lawn right up to the edge.
But they are expanding the wall farther into the no-disturb.
No,
No.
it's same footprint.
Well, it says, if I'm looking at the plan, you got a existing stockade fence, is that, and then there's the wall?
Then there's the wall
Yeah,
beyond
So the
that.
proposed wall is, okay, I see it now, okay,
Yep.
sorry.
It was hard to show everything, but the existing railroad tie retaining wall is going to be replaced in the same footprint with a gravity block retaining wall. No closer. What's lawn is going to be lawn. The fence is going to be in the same footprint. The patio that's within the no-build in that area is going to be the same footprint. There's no expansion.
Joe?
So the only thing, again, you've shoehorned everything in here pretty done well. One thing that kind of jumped out to me, though, is that it looks to be about a 30% increase in impervious area, and without any real discussion of what the extra runoff, where's it going to go, how are you going to control, and given some of these slopes, what's, how are you going to protect erosion on those slopes?
So the existing slope from the driveway now down to the wetland, it's definitely not 3-to-1, but it's pretty steep. It's probably 5-to-1, 6-to-1. We're making it steeper on the back portion of the sports court, but we also have a fairly flat area where the sports court is now. So I think water is going to get from point A to point B slightly faster than it does now, but the 3-to-1 slope will be vegetated. There should be plenty of lawn between the activity and the resource area that I don't think we'll have erosive velocities, or I don't think we'll have any erosion moving forward as a result of this project.
Infiltration around, along the edges or anything?
We're not proposing any. I suspect a high water table and poorly drained soils out here. I mean, if the commission did want us to put in a small infiltration trench in portions of the project, we could. I'm not sure how well they'd work, but there is room to do that. Going from concrete to pavers is a little better, but not much.
We'll come back to that topic. That's all I had.
I guess that'd be my concern as to...
How do you got to slow it down? How? I don't know. That's the only thing that I really see as the area of concern. It's almost like a giant point source.
Well, really, the only part that's getting steeper is the back side of the sports court.
Yeah.
We're going from probably 6-to-1 to 3-to-1. And that's only for a small portion.
Yeah.
And above it, it's going to be a lot flatter than it is now. So I think that portion won't be running as fast as it does now. Right now, it comes off that driveway and just picks up speed all the way down to the wetland. Now we're going to have a level area.
But what comes off the court? The court is impervious where pervious soil previously existed.
Right, that's the one area that it's going to
That's
be.
like a launching pad, really. I guess, like I said, that's the only thing that's jumping out at me, Greg. I just, everything else seems good.
There's plenty of opportunity. I mean, we're going to be there setting a wall, sports court, there's going to be major construction. To dig a small trench, throw some stone in there on the backside of the sports court is not a big deal. It's something we could do, and I think it would solve that problem.
I don't think it's anything you analyze. I think, just as you stated, it's a BMP, put it in, and then I'd be satisfied.
I would agree. Awesome.
And the other question, well, the other one is, because it's so busy, you have an existing shed in the 25.
Proposed to be removed. It's
That's a good
the
idea.
client. I talked to the client after Jennifer pointed it out. That was her first question, and he said, it's falling apart now, we'll just get it out of there. And the intent was to move that to the new proposed shed location, or get rid of that and put a new shed in the proposed shed location.
Okay. I'm all set.
What's the sports court made of?
It's a concrete slab with an interlocking tile on top of the concrete.
Is it laid in like tile?
It sits freely on top of it.
Freely
so
on
the water drains through the tile onto the pad itself.
So it is impervious then, the concrete? Okay. I'm just sort of following up on the discussion that these guys just had. Is it possible to make that pervious, where it could percolate water into the ground?
I think to make that whole structure pervious, I think that would be a challenge, but certainly to put trenches where it makes sense off the court itself, I think would be more practicable.
The tiles that float on top of the concrete, what are they made of?
It's a plastic tile, polypropylene.
Polypropylene. And what are those, linked together or something?
They're locked together on all four
Okay.
sides. Yes.
No more questions.
Are those tiles slippery?
They're a little more slippery if they're wet, but
Yeah.
if they're dry, they're great traction.
Okay.
That's all.
The only comment I have is that this shed here is the one that's supposed to be within the 25 no disturb zone. And all this is disturbed down here for quite a distance, not only on his property, but on other people's property.
The 25-foot no disturb zone there is associated with the stormwater structure that's constructed in wetland. So for maintenance purposes, I wouldn't think you would have a 25-foot no disturb zone on a stormwater structure.
If that's the case, then there is no 25, then this shed here is not in that 25 no disturb zone, so therefore it shouldn't.
It is, because under the Wetlands Protection Act, pre-1996, if the wetland was constructed, if the stormwater structure was constructed in a wetland, the commission has jurisdiction over it, or can take jurisdiction over it, which in this case, the commission has always asserted on Bear Hill that they had jurisdiction over those wetlands / stormwater structures.
So the 25 no disturb zone is a local bylaw issue.
But it's from the edge of wetland, and if they consider the stormwater structure to be part of the wetland, which it was constructed in wetland, there's a plan down the end of the table that shows how much of the stormwater structure was previously BBW.
It's a pretty valuable resource area at this point.
Yeah, it's well vegetated.
Yeah.
So the yellow is the wetland line, and then you can see the stormwater structures half in the wetland, half out. If the commission did want to see a 25-foot no disturb, it would need to be something like that they mowed at least annually or twice annually or something like that.
This is mowed on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody's mowing as much as they can before the lawnmower
Looks
tires
like
start sinking
Either
in.
that or they hire the same guy that comes in.
He
and
just
does it.
mows straight across the back.
That's more likely.
But they are not mowing, between those stormwater structures and the actual wetland. there's no maintenance of that area. So when you get to the other side of the basins, it's all natural. It's just around the front of the basins.
What's that? Any more questions? We can do a motion.
So there's waivers to approve.
Well, we haven't about, excuse me, we haven't
Oh,
about
I'm
here.
sorry.
Would you like to speak, madam?
Let her go, sir. Let her go.
This is going to stay private, there's no public access to this.
That's right. It'll be a private facility for the
Can you
homeowners.
say you are, for the record?
Sure.
I'm positive, yep.
Her name.
Would your address, where do you live on Bear Hill? What? Would you live on Bear Hill? Yes. Or what's the address? 111. 111 Bear Hill.
The zoning bylaw will protect you from a public recreational facility.
I imagine that, but
Yep.
I was very curious about that.
Yep.
So, and I couldn't see any public access on Bear Hill or Appleton in the back.
Yep, this is strictly for private use. But I imagine they'll have a lot of friends over.
Well, that's what I think. They're all coming out of the woodwork, right?
Oh, all the friends?
Friends.
I'm sure. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any more questions, ma'am? Do you have any more questions?
No. I was very anxious to hear, though, what the project was. I'm in a butter, my backyard abuts them. So, okay.
Very good.
I hope you make a good decision.
Thank you.
Thank you for
We hope we
coming.
make a good one, too.
Is there any more questions, the motion?
What are you looking for, Mr. Chairman?
Close, right?
So is a waiver required to replace structures in kind
Yes.
if they're legally there? I know we've had this discussion on small projects.
No, because an in-kind replacement could be, on its own, could be a small project. It doesn't
Right,
require.
so I don't,
We are going from railroad ties to block wall. I don't know if that's still technically in kind. We requested it anyways.
So,
I just know how we hate to grant waivers, so I kind of didn't, I mean, replacing the patio, if they replace it in kind, it definitely doesn't need a waiver. I guess the railroad tie to block,
Did we do that waiver for that wall that was getting fixed?
that was railroad tie to railroad tie, though.
well, regardless of your material, the only question I would ask is, are you changing any of the location, converting from one type of material to the other? Is anything changing other than the material?
No. No.
I don't think it's a waiver. If he were moving it even so much as an inch in either direction, I'd say yes, but if
Okay.
you're not changing anything,
I think,
I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, an inch.
the width of the
you understand
railroad
it.
tie versus the blocks might be a little different. It might be a little different.
Yeah, an inch, 4 feet is something else.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
It would be
So,
immeasurable.
no, I don't think we need a waiver.
it sounds like the consensus is,
right, it's legally there. We checked the building files. The pool has a building permit, whether someone should have flagged the wetland back then. it's a whole
don't
nother-
create work where it doesn't exist.
Right.
I'm not doing it.
All right, so we need a motion.
What do you want, to close an issue?
Yes.
I'll move it.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's just pending a revised plan, correct? If you
Right.
get Jennifer a plan showing the infiltration trench?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good night.
All right, you too. Okay, next one is 242 1656 95 Old Cart Way.
All right, so on this one, you asked for a survey plan, which you received. You also had asked that the proposal not include the work in the no-build zone, but the work in the no-build zone is still proposed. That being said, if work in the no-build zone is proposed, it requires an alternatives analysis, which was not presented either. Other than that, I mean, so there's the deck, the stairs, and patio proposed in the no-build zone. The retaining wall is also proposed in the no-build zone, but just for clarification, you had approved an amendment to the plan, the pool plan that he previously had in front of you, to allow a retaining wall partially in the no-build zone, so I'm guessing that piece of it may be approvable. That said, we also have not received a certificate of compliance request for the old order. So that's my review.
With that being said, I wasn't here last meeting as chairman, so I'm going to defer to my vice chairman because he was in the discussion with this. So I'm going to defer to my vice chair, Mr. Manzi.
All right, so, good evening. So, at the last meeting, we did ask for an alternatives analysis pursuant to your request for a waiver. No alternatives?
Well, there's some complications. I was asked to close out the prior order of conditions.
Yes.
And at the time, at the meeting, it was stated that there was no work done under that prior order. There was, however, the hot tub was installed last August, first week of August. It wasn't, albeit placed where the plan called for it to be placed, but there was work done. So I wanted to have a discussion about how you'd like to proceed in that regard.
On closing out the old order?
Yeah, because it was stated previously that no work was done, but work was done even though it wasn't according to the plan.
I mean, the purpose of it is so you don't have two conflicting orders out there. I think the goal here is whatever comes out of this process is going to be a new order of conditions, which is going to completely replace the old order of conditions, whether something marginally started, partially started. It almost is academic if this new work is going to totally encompass the old one. So even though it may be precisely honest to say that some work was done, I think in this purpose...
Well, I didn't want to do anything that was...
I think in this purpose, closing it out is what we really want, what has to happen.
And then the new work or any existing work would be annexed into the new order of conditions.
Right. But I wanted to get your input. I wanted to present my plan, which I really didn't get to do last time.
Right.
And have you have a complete understanding of the situation that I'm trying to remedy here. Frankly, the hot tub is a secondary issue. It's the stairway that has my primary concern. And so if I could, I don't know if, am I allowed to then maybe present my ideas?
Yes, yes, you are. I just want to just refresh your memory that at the last meeting, we asked for a survey plan, you provided one. You asked for a waiver. We asked for an alternatives analysis. And you have stairs, deck, and a jacuzzi that have already been constructed. We issued an enforcement order.
They're in the process of being constructed.
Under construction.
But they're there, right?
They're there.
Well, they're partially built.
They're only partially there?
The stairs are only partially there. The decking in the lower portion is, I mean, the framing is all there. The finish work is not done.
We issued an enforcement order?
We did.
Okay, and the enforcement order required what? I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Don, is the enforcement order in here? Yep, it's here. So the enforcement order required him to file a notice of intent to permit any work in the 100-foot buffer zone.
Okay, so we have a notice of intent filed.
And that he cease all activities in the jurisdictional resource area.
Okay, so it's my understanding that that's where we are tonight then. We have a notice of intent before us. We have a survey plan submitted. We have an enforcement order that's out there. And now we asked for, the only thing just
You
struck...
didn't ask specifically for the waiver request. You actually told him not to come back with work proposed in the no-build zone because you were not going to allow it.
Well, that's my memory. We suggested to you that it was not
Well, I
approvable,
wanted-
but you want to be heard on it anyway?
I still would like to, I'm looking for a solution.
All right.
Maybe you can help me,
Okay,
okay?
all right.
I'm trying to,
In the interest of fairness, you have the floor.
okay, thank you. I believe you have a letter from the contractor, as well as from the building inspector.
I presented those to the commission. Regardless of whether they needed building inspector approval, they needed Conservation Commission approval, so it's a moot point. It doesn't really matter whether it needed building inspector approval.
But to answer your question, yeah, we're in receipt.
If I can...
We're in receipt of 2 letters. One is from Mr. Handyman, and one is from the Town of North Andover Office of Building Department. We have 2 letters here.
And Brian further clarified his letter to say that the stairs and the deck revisions actually did need a building department approval. Only that lower deck does not require building department approval.
Okay.
So this is kind of what was happening last time. I never
Right.
got to really present.
Go ahead.
So I realize there may be objections here, but so the letter that the point I wanted to make from this letter was that the present stairway has been in a state of continual deterioration for the entire time that I've owned the home. The prior homeowner replaced the stairway and the deck prior to my purchasing the home in 2003. And in the letter from the contractor, a company called Mr. Handyman, those points are made. I wanted to provide some photos. First, I don't know if I can start this.
Yeah, just
These are photos of this top of the stairway. There's been a gate installed that was installed some years ago. That's actually the latest version of the gate at the top of the stairway. That was to prevent children from falling when that happened a couple of times. These are photos of the stairway itself and the condition of the wood. That was replaced in 2011, and it's already, and that gets pressure washed 2 to 3 times a year and still remains in that condition. An alternative location, if you look at the diagram on the deck, from the viewing from the rear of the home, on the right side, this is a view from off the deck, off the right side. There's an access way, doorway to some, that's access to utilities and the backup generator. And there's the same problem on the right side or opposite side of the deck has the rainwater and snow collecting just as it does on the other side. So putting a stairway off the right side into an area that is outside the no-build would block that access way, and you still have all this rot going on. So the only alternative that will provide a safe egress from the home is to build the stairway off the back of the deck, the end of the deck, which is, my daughter had fallen from on that stairway 2 times this spring, and after the second time, she sustained some serious injuries. I told the contractor at that time, although we had discussed on numerous occasions relocating the stairway, at that point I said, let's just go ahead and do it. I wanted to change the location, and the materials have been changed to a synthetic that would stand up to the elements, and the contractor feels that that was the only place we could locate the stairway without having all this rot that you're seeing. And there isn't a way to build it off the right side of the deck, the opposite side, without also having the same problem and blocking that access way.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I know I'm interrupting you, but I just have
No,
to ask.
that's all right.
The area that you've displayed to us of decayed stairs on the plan, it says existing decayed stairs to be converted to deck area. The exact point you just made about converting to a composite material rather than wood could be feasibly done right there where the stairs exist now. They could be converted from what they are to a composite material, and you would solve your decaying and safety problem.
The entire structure deteriorates. It's not just the surface, but the entire structure.
But you could,
even the
in other words,
infrastructure.
if you replaced them in kind, if you took the stairs that are there down, just replaced the whole setup in kind to a composite material, that would solve the decaying problem. That would be, in essence, that would be the alternative to locating the stairs and the rest of the deck in the no-build zone.
I'm not aware of any composite material that, in terms of timber, that holds the composite.
There is every kind of composite material that can be used to support that. I mean, there is absolutely, the technology exists to, I'm sorry?
Stuff you're talking about on my house.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? But because where he's got the decayed steps, I mean, honestly, I think we've all experienced somewhere on our properties that decays more rapidly than others due to the proximity of no sunlight or too much moisture. And I know I have, and it's absolutely solvable. I mean, just the material change alone is the alternative.
The steps where you're proposing, the same thing is going to happen to them that happened to the others.
No, because it's not where all the roofs are pitched and dumping rainwater and snow there.
Well, you're going to have snow on them.
Do you have a gutter system on the roof?
Yes, I do.
And it's exceeding your gutter system?
By a lot, yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, I just wanted to make that point. Continue. Sorry to interrupt you. I apologize.
Okay, it's all right. Wanted to present these letters. One is from my attorney, and the other is from the engineer who designed the site plan. The letter from the...
Multiple reads here.
Yes, and one. They're all the same. You start reading. These three letters are the same. They're not three separate letters. They're all...
They're two sets of three, I'm sorry, 3 sets of 2 letters.
I did make Mr. Murtha aware of the 7-day submittal policy as well.
We can deal with all that. It's just I'm interested in just getting his testimony. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah.
We'll keep reading while you go.
All right. So the letter from my attorney, he provides his opinion about why he feels that on a number of levels I have legal rights to construct in that area.
Yeah.
And the engineer provides his opinion as to why this project is has substantially less impact on the wetlands and the environment than the prior plan that the commission approved in 2007. So I realize that you didn't have those ahead of time.
Yeah.
I'm happy to let you review all of this and continue the meeting at
I guess I appreciate that. I have more questions because as you make your points, it just gives me more, causes me to have more questions. Basically, essentially, what you're presenting to us is a sort of open-ended alternatives analysis. All the different information you're giving is, you're saying, well, there's no alternative to doing what you want to do, and you're presenting your case in a sort of a somewhat fractured way of saying, I can't use, this is the only alternative I can use, and this is why. But that's primarily what we asked you to do. We asked you to submit to us a comprehensive document.
I'm just a layperson.
You're doing it on your own, but you are seeking some advice from, you said that, I haven't read it yet, obviously, but you said there's a letter from an engineer. What would serve you well?
Between the supposed experts in their fields, the attorney, the engineer, the building inspector, and the contractor all concurred that...
But what we're dealing with here is a wetlands issue, and our employee is a wetland scientist. You have yet...
So in the letter from the attorney, he makes the point that the proposed work does not have, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't know.
I haven't seen it yet.
That the proposed work does not violate any of the conditions of the Wetlands Protection Act, and that when appropriate, the Commission has the authority to issue waivers, and so if the work does not impact the wetlands in any substantive way.
He's partially correct. We have the ability to issue a waiver under both the Wetland Protection Act and the town's Wetland Protection Bylaw. The most important part of the waiver consideration process is the alternatives analysis. That's the key document that gives us the opportunity to try to understand if a waiver is applicable and why. Absent that document, you're basically essentially trying to build a house without a foundation. And that document...
Say again, I'm sorry?
I said absent the document, the alternatives analysis, absent that document, what you're trying to do is build a house without a foundation. That's the foundation to the waiver request. And you have not submitted it, and we asked you to do that.
I misunderstood, and I will be happy to do so.
What needs to happen, if you insist on pursuing your plan, which it appears you do, in order to do it, in fairness to you, you absolutely need to get a wetland expert, a wetland scientist, to submit an alternatives analysis explaining in great detail why there are no alternatives. As I suggested, I think there is one. I think the alternative for you, my opinion, is...
Here's, I guess I would say this. I have great respect for the environment, the work that you do. I have always abided by the rules. I feel, and I told the contractor about the prior order of conditions. I fully, in the last meeting, it was stated that I hadn't read the prior order of conditions at all, and that's absolutely correct. I left that in the hands of professionals. Sure. And that's what I did this time. I presumed that the proper rules would be followed, that permits would be pulled if needed. That wasn't done. Now I've got a half-built stairway. I've got, I'm just asking for people to be reasonable and to help me to...
I'm giving you the best advice that I can possibly give you, and I mean that sincerely. You have a proposal in front of us asking for a permit. You're asking for a waiver. The whole basis that this commission uses to consider a waiver is that alternatives analysis. In other words, simply put, you have to say to us, there's no viable or feasible alternative. I have to do it the way I'm proposing. You need to show in great detail with scientific evidence why there's no viable or feasible alternative. I think, just based on what I've seen tonight, absent that document, that there is an alternative, that you could just replace the steps in kind and not have to have the steps that you're proposing or the jacuzzi deck in the no-build zone. I mean, am I...
I think it's even broader than that. Maybe it's not even replace the stairs in the existing place, because I do understand the accumulation of snow and water and lack of sunshine is going to create an ongoing maintenance concern, and it's going to, over time, create a safety concern. But I'm looking at the way the 50-foot no-build dips, and we've got an awful lot of landscaping to the
left, to the left,
to the-
or to the right
as
from
we're
where we
looking
see
at
it,
it
yeah.
from the backyard.
I see it, yeah,
To the
okay,
right.
yep, yep. I see.
And I see a deck, and again, we see a lot of these.
And then you see a porch.
In a porch, you know, could you not have connecting porches in a stairway down to that path over by the existing paved driveway access, construction access? You know, could you run it across the back narrower and bring it down the side? I think the answer to that is, it seems to be a feasible alternative until I hear otherwise. It seems to me that coming off the deck down the stairs to a lower deck doesn't genuinely serve any purpose of egress. All it does is get you out of the house and get you down to the jacuzzi.
I don't need the lower, I don't, honestly,
Don't need a lower deck.
I don't, because if we move the location of the of the jacuzzi 15 feet to the right, it's outside the no-build zone.
Right.
If you really think that that's going to make a difference in some fashion, then I'm fine with that. I just want to finish the stairway, and I don't care about the deck or I mean, I'd ask that the...
So I'm going to gesture, I'm not going to draw on the screen. I'm just going to stand and gesture. So if that's the case, if you don't need the stairway to get from the upper deck to the jacuzzi deck, could you not come off of this deck and come down diagonally with your stairway and stay outside of the 50 and still get out of your back deck? The answer is yes.
How,
You
where?
could. By coming off at an angle. You don't need to be in the 50.
Direct the stairs in a different direction.
Just in a different direction.
Well, but again, if you're going off to the right side, you're going to be blocking that access door.
The lower access door.
Yes.
And what does that lower access door take you to?
Utilities, backup generator.
Those are the first pictures that came around.
Yeah.
So the generator's under the deck or
It's
under the porch?
under the porch, right? The generator is under the porch? Is that correct?
Yes. No, under, oh yes, porch. Yes.
Under the, yeah, I'm just looking at the picture and just for reference.
Not under the deck.
Not under the deck, under the porch.
So why, so the same token too, why can't you put a stairwell from between the deck and the porch?
I think there are several alternatives, none of which requires these stairs coming down.
We're just trying to demonstrate to you, sir, that
But you're even talking a matter of a few feet here.
what we want is we want you out of the 50-foot no-build. We want you out of that no-build zone. And we're happy to permit you if you can get everything out of that 50-foot. We're saying to you that there are alternatives here that are obvious to us that would preclude a waiver. That's all we're saying. We're not trying to be combative with you or argumentative. We're just really trying to show you that there's another way to do this that would cause it to comply.
Right. The original flagging of the wetlands would have put the stairway outside of the no-build zone. That was reflagged by your commission representative.
With your representative, who clearly agreed with my delineation of the wetland.
Who was?
Rochelle.
So you had a wetland expert there.
She flagged it, and she says that she went out and met with Jennifer.
They agreed on the locations.
She felt that one of her flags had either dropped or been moved when I was out there.
Yeah.
But something had happened. She's like, I didn't flag
She
this
said
that
that?
low. She didn't know what happened. One was either missing or it had dropped and she said there was a broken branch and maybe it had been retied. She couldn't tell, but she clearly, one of the flags was clearly not where she thought it had belonged. And then it hadn't been surveyed, so there was no way to tell where it was.
She never said that to me, but I'd like
Well,
to
and then
hear
in
that.
another location, she had just connected two flags, and I clearly showed her that between those two flags, the wetland line came up significantly, and she clearly agreed. And I offered to have a third-party delineation,
But that-
a review.
that's an
I had a totally different,
So that's still an option to you, you know. If you want to hire another scientist to come in and review the line again, that's up to you. It's just it's your dime.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a waste of time.
But I think it's a waste of time and money.
You get two scientists to agree on the line.
No, I get it.
well,
I'm just saying.
Rochelle, what Rochelle told me was that it was the first time in nearly 20 years of doing this that her flags were ever moved. So I'm just, the whole process seems to be...
Rochelle and I have definitely moved flags before in the past 7 years. And
I'm
that
just
said,
going on what she said.
She said the site looked dramatically different than when she had last been there, which included that there had been some blow down of trees and things, so she...
So here's what...
That's something else I have here. It was stated last time that I had randomly cleared trees, and I'm going to leave
wasn't
this with you
stated.
as well. There's, this is...
It wasn't random. There's cutting of trees both in the wetland and out of the wetland.
Okay. All right.
Right. There was a microburst that went through last July 3rd. This is documentation of that.
But is that...
And it looked like a bomb went off, and I did a lot of cleaning up.
Is that something that's before us?
I had said that there needs to be restoration of the 25-foot no disturb in some places in my recommendations because of that clearing. But as far as what's been done, it's done. There's no
So the
going
restoration
back.
would be normal anyway. We typically order restoration, which is just planting of new trees. That's not a big deal.
Okay.
That's not, you're not being penalized for anything like that.
Well,
That's
I take a lot of pride in my reputation, and I just don't want to be... This is documentation that a microburst hit that 100-foot pines ripped in half. I mean, they're right there.
It's
You can
fine
see them.
that the trees were cut. The fact that they were in the wetland means a phone call should have been made to say, I need to do some cleanup in a resource area. We get those calls all the time.
So you're not, again, that's not the point of what we're talking about here.
Okay.
The point that's before us, what's germane to the discussion here is that we, as a commission, believe that there's an alternative to your proposal that would allow your project to comply, not require a waiver, and be very permittable. And we're just urging you to take that path and redesign it to make it comply, because honestly, that won't be, the portion that's in the 50 won't be permitted. It just won't. We'll deny that portion of it. I can almost assure you of that. And rather than go through all that trouble and time and waste your time on it, why not do a quick redesign to get it to comply? It's just, my best opinion.
Well, I've got all these people telling me different things,
Well, I guess...
All what people?
Engineers, attorneys, and Rochelle said completely different things to me.
As Al was going at it, I was reading through your attorney's correspondence and your engineer's correspondence, and I don't think there's any great difference from the regurgitation of the regs from the attorney's perspective, and I believe we're working well within those regs, and I think he's saying that you ought to do it, he's just simply reaching different conclusions than us. And your engineer goes on to talk about the need for a waiver and the 4 things that you need to do in order to justify the waiver. And one of those things is the alternatives analysis. And reading the contractor's, Mr. Handyman's letter, mostly challenging with the need for a building permit perspective on it. That aside,
I felt that was a minor aspect.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, it has really...
But beyond that, he gets into the meat of the discussion about the concern with the rot and the roof lines channeling water and snow. I understand all of that. So, digesting all of that, and even looking at photographs, I really truly believe I see that if this is your 50-foot no disturb, no build, 50-foot no build, and off the corner of this deck, parallel to this retaining wall that's already doing something, I believe you can get a stairway running down in that corner that gets you into the backyard and complies with the 50.
But the access door.
He said he doesn't need that.
Let's stand up.
What's in the 50? That's not going to be there. That's not going to be there.
I mean,
I think the discussion is going to be the...
I think at the end of the day, if I were giving you advice, and I understand this is free advice, so it's worth what it is worth, I'd try to figure out how quickly do I want to complete this project versus how long do I want to fight over it. And that's a question only you can answer. If you feel strongly and you want to fight over this project and spend the next year fighting over it, that's your decision to make. Where we sit, what's in front of us right now on these four corners, that portion's not permittable. So you can either, we're trying to be sincere and give you good advice. You can accept it.
I appreciate that.
Or you can, decide that you want to challenge it, and that's your right. And you can do that, and it'll just tie you up for a while.
And the other thing, which, I know you guys have been harping on the alternatives analysis, which is required for a waiver. But even if you come with an alternative analysis that say you can't do it, we can still disagree and not grant the waiver. So that's why.
And I want to put in perspective, there's several of us sitting at this table here who are a lot lighter, thinner, better complected, and much naturally colored hair instead of gray. In other words, we've been here collectively, some of us, like 80 years, additively. 20 plus years, and I can tell you, never have we considered something like this.
Well, not when there's an alternative.
Not when there was an alternative.
There's an alternative. If there's no alternative, you got a whole different ballgame. If we thought you had no alternative, you'd have a shot at the waiver. I'm telling you, you would.
So
you have an alternative, sir. You have one. It's viable. It's feasible. It can happen. You have at least one alternative. And with regard to your wetland line, the person that works for us is a wetland scientist. We have great confidence in her ability to delineate wetlands. If you want to challenge that, you can do that too. But you have to hire your own wetland scientist, and you'd have to hire a third party, and it would be on you. The cost would be borne by you.
And we would hire. So we would hire a third party.
We would hire a third party, and the bylaw would require you to pay for the third party. So, I mean,
the flag is in question.
It's not a precise
So
science.
it's all kind of stacked against me.
It's not a precise science. It's a
It's
pretty accurate science, and the truth is, you hire
subjective science.
and you hire another consultant in the third party. It's not going to change that much.
The truth is, if you look back at the prior plan that he had done when he proposed a swimming pool, this line was something like 20 feet off of it when I went out there. And I said, that's just ridiculous. This wetland did not move 20 feet in X number of years. So Rochelle and I looked at that prior plan and this plan and said, yeah, something went wrong here. There's a flag missing. There's a flag that fell down, whatever. And we fixed the line. It largely now agrees with the prior line. Nothing has really changed out there.
So it wasn't arbitrary. I mean, it was based on augering and vegetation.
Augering, vegetation would pull the line even higher, honestly.
I guess.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'm just.
If I was standing there, I think my goal would be, how can I get this project done?
Right.
And, I understand it's not exactly the way you want it to go, and I understand it's like eating a little crow, and I get it, but I get that. But you should, try to take what we're offering as good advice, and we're trying to tell you how to get it done.
Okay.
And get what you want, and everything be in compliance, and, save you as much money as possible without wasting it on legal experts. I mean, you can if you want. Like I said, it's your right to do, and we'll give you the forum. That's for sure.
So I don't understand the one last question.
Yeah.
The fact that why is there even if you never issue waivers?
We didn't say never. You got to know. You got to.
If there is a
if there's no alternative, and that's why I hopped on the alternatives analysis. If you brought in an alternatives analysis that showed us beyond a reasonable doubt that there's no alternative but for your proposal, you'd likely get your waiver. But we're telling you, sitting here, there's 5 of us that's 6 that just said there are alternatives. There are alternatives that exist.
Okay.
Therefore, a waiver would be arbitrary, and we're not going to do that.
Okay. Appreciate your time, and I guess I'd like to...
Do you want to continue for 2 weeks and think about it and talk about it and perhaps work with Jen on it a little bit? I mean... we give you 2 weeks, we'll give you 4 weeks, whatever you want.
I'd like to revisit it in 2 weeks if we could.
If you'd like to come back, we'd be happy to see you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
We have a motion.
We still have the yellow.
The EO can stay open.
The EO stays open.
EO stays open, no problem there. The EO can ride with the order.
EO was to file
A notice of
and
intent.
get an order and
Yeah, leave it open, though.
and comply.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Did you
it's
want
still-
your letters back from the attorneys? Did you want these?
Are these for our file?
Oh, it's for your file.
These are for our file, okay, all right.
And I guess, for the record, I'd like you to have the,
Copies of the letters for the file.
We're gonna,
We have the
wait,
letters.
there's another submittal coming forward.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna continue for 2 weeks, come back in 2 weeks? Okay.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Al, Deb.
And that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
The gavel goes back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Now I can see why you handed it off.
Okay.
So,
I think everything else is largely a continuance. Where are we?
yeah, we just have, well, we're
We have one.
So, no,
yeah.
I don't think any of them are gonna
Osgood Street's,
fly.
Osgood
So
Street's not
Katuitt-
flying.
Katuitt Street needs a continuance for 2 weeks. We got some response on that today from Mr. Osgood Jr.
Right. And
So-
in 179 Osgood Street's a continuance.
What are you
Yeah,
reading?
they need to get us an as-built. They requested a waiver.
Well, they asked for a waiver for an as-built.
And
So I
Lou told
took it
them
upon
that would never
myself
be
to say,
happening.
Was that
And then
okay?
126, 107 Campion has some issues to address as well.
Why are we becoming inundated with waiver requests for everything, from plans?
I would never
to-
have suggested that they should ever in a million years do
I
that.
mean,
But they did it on their own.
Is the message not clear? Do we have to take firmer action at these meetings? We've had,
Who's asking for that?
Mr. LaGrosse.
and we had waiver requests at the last meeting that were even worse than that. There were people that were requesting waivers from everything, from plans
Okay,
to,
well, we need 3 continuances, so
Okay,
all to the next meeting.
yeah.
Want to do it as a group?
Those are the ones we weeded out
What do you-
today.
Collectively.
what do you need right now?
Collectively?
Well, just do it to the
Move to
decision.
continue the remaining 3.
What decision? I'm sorry, what do we-
Wait, so continue remaining 3.
We have the
They're all being
Wait,
continued.
what remaining 3? I don't have,
My agenda's different.
my agenda does not have,
We
Being
took them off.
continued.
I don't have anything.
All we have is 107 Campion.
Yeah,
Needs to be continued.
mine ends at 2/4/2/1635. I don't have anything after that.
So 242-1601 is being continued.
That's all I have.
NACC 126 is being continued, and 242-1620, all being continued
Where's
for
16?
2
They're on the
weeks.
recommendations.
But they're not on my,
I know, they're not on the recommendations.
They're not on, they're on the
they're not on my
recommendations.
agenda.
They're not on our agenda. They are not.
That's the reason we're acting startled here.
She told me to take this one off.
You don't take them off, they're just
can't,
saying, they've been posted. They're on your posted agenda, just act on them. They're all on the
Okay, all
posted
right,
agenda.
All right, so what action do you,
Okay,
what action are you requesting?
we can do it here.
Continue for 2 weeks.
All the more reason I call them the
You don't
remaining
take
3.
them off, you can't
Remaining
remove
3,
things from the
move that we
agenda.
continue the
Public
remaining
hearing,
3.
public meeting, you
Right.
can't. They got to remain on the agenda.
All right, we got it right here. 242-1601, request to continue.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Go ahead.
NACC 126 COC request to continue to the next meeting.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. And the last one is 242-1620,
Got it.
179 Osgood Street, request to continue to the next meeting.
Segundo.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay,
We have one decision, sorry.
the other decision.
Oh, did we close Phil?
We did.
Yeah, we closed Phil.
1655.
We just have to Phil.
Okay. So the only thing,
Which one?
242-1655.
the only thing,
Yes, we did, yes, I'm sorry, yes.
the bond, I had it 5,500. It's, like, a couple hundred feet of roadway and some stormwater.
That's it.
I have them certifying the vernal pools in condition 50. I said prior to construction or when seasonally appropriate, because they may start construction this fall and seasonally appropriate won't be till spring.
Yes.
And prior to requesting a certificate of compliance, all ephemeral pools on site shall be evaluated for certification as vernal pools under the criteria established by the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. Those found to meet the criteria shall be certified with NHESP.
Question?
Yep.
With respect to the vernal pools and with respect to any specific blanding habitat, would it be appropriate to have some type of markings or identification area posted
Heritage will require that
on both?
on their restriction.
What about on our ephemeral
Through
pools?
MISA, not through our permit, through
So,
the MISA process.
so the all ephemeral pools, I would request that
Well,
we
I
have some
have-
type of
Yep.
marking in.
So I have prior to construction, the applicant shall mark the 50-foot no disturbance zone on all delineated wetlands abutting the development with signs or markers, blah, 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 every 40 feet.
What about the ephemeral pools? That's 75 feet.
No, it's 50, no disturb. 75, no build. But we mark the no disturb.
Gotcha, okay. All right.
So,
Copy that. All right,
it's in
thank you.
there.
Thank you.
I guess my only question was, on 56, I don't know if they'll need to be in long-term agreement with the homeowners association. Well, it's basically saying evidence of a long-term agreement or other formal documentation such as the funding access. I guess maybe that's a question for planning. If they plan on this being an accepted street, this is kind of one of those conditions when we don't accept the drainage.
But that's going to be a town issue. The town's going to take that.
It depends. I don't really know what the proposal is for this development, sometimes the town takes stuff within the street right-of-way, but this development has stuff that's outside of the street right-of-way, and I doubt very much the town will take that, not anymore. So I think I just need to clarify that with planning, and I'll leave it in if it's appropriate, and I'll take it out if it's not.
Okay.
But I think everything else should be pretty cut and dry.
We spun ourselves all around on this trail, no trail question in whether Natural Heritage thinks that's appropriate or might not think it's appropriate. Should we leave the door open, at least with the statement, should the kind of money I'm whistling, should the planning board require trails? Any activity that would fall within the jurisdiction requires separate filing or separate action?
Can't they just, if they want trails, they can either amend the order or file a new notice of
Just come in
intent?
after the fact?
Yeah.
Don't need to mention it separately?
I don't think so. I think that's
That
kind of
would
a,
definitely be a filing of some kind.
Right.
That would be a filing no matter what.
okay, so approve as drafted.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Deb.
Motion to adjourn?
Deb, that's Deb's motion.
Deb? Thank you. All those in favor say aye.